Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this rendition of Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox. And it's one of our special shows, guys. We have a guest tonight. Tonight, we're going to have Everton Blair, and he's running for Congress here in the 13th District in that special election, and he's in a runoff with Marcy Scott. So we're going to bring him on here in a second. I want to say hello to you guys and say let's welcome Everton on, and we're going to hear a little bit about him and the things that he has done and what he would like to do with this congressional position. Hey, Everton, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Larry. You can call me EJ if you want.
EJ, I don't know. You might be my congressman, I think.
You can still call me EJ when I'm your congressman.
I got you. I got you, guys. So just so you guys know, I am not going to have the chat up on the screen tonight because I'm having difficulty with that. So what we're going to do is I'll still be able to read everything that you're saying. So just put your comments in there, and we'll I'll put them on the screen if it's something that we want to ask later on. But I'm gonna have to work on that a little later, guys, because it doesn't want to cooperate with me. But I will I'll get that functioning later on. But thanks, guys, for joining us tonight. And if you want to share and like the show, go ahead and do that. And we're going to let Everton tell you a little bit about himself, who he is, and why he wants to be your congressman.
I appreciate the opportunity to do so. My name is Dr. Everton Blair, but I grew up in Snellville and everybody still calls me EJ. And I am just a community member who believes that we need more leaders in our community doing everything we can to make it better. I had the great fortune of being raised by two parents who invested so much in my public education and in my opportunities that I was able to do a lot of good things. I graduated from Shiloh elementary, middle, and high school, and was able to go to Harvard and Stanford. And I came back home and became a high school math teacher. And to date, that is still my most difficult and also rewarding job. It showed me so much around how late our interventions and resources were being utilized in public schools to really try to move the needle to serve our students in a better and more demonstrable way. And so I did everything I could in that capacity, but I tried to learn more and do more. And so I went to public policy school. I worked in President Obama's administration. I did a lot of work that brought me back home. And I ran for school board in 2018, honestly, because of Donald Trump. In his first term, he rolled back everything that I had worked so hard on in President Obama's White House. And I figured if I can't do stuff from the grass tops, let me go back home and affect change from the grassroots. And I ran for school board in Gwinnett at a time when many people in my community and in my neighborhood didn't even know that we had a school board or what they did or how things worked. And I was able to do really well against a lot of odds. And when people doubted the capacity, expertise, and ability of somebody who, at that time, I was 26. And I just tried to lift up the voices of our students who were underserved, lift up the salaries of our teachers and the needs of our teachers, and do the work in community to do the best job possible. I knew I couldn't do it alone, so I recruited people to join me. I recruited my future colleagues to, then be elected, and then I was the board chair during the pandemic. And I know, Larry, that you know how crazy that time was for us because we shared the same Gwinnett, Newton, and Rockdale health system, and we had to make decisions that nobody before us had ever had to make before. And I'm just really, proud of the opportunity to lead. And I believe that there is no time, long or short, that is too insignificant to make a difference. And I did that on the school board where I oversaw our $2.5 billion budget, the largest in the state of Georgia. I hired our new superintendent. I made sure that our schools were accredited. I fought the Republican efforts at the state capitol to redistrict me out of my seat in 2021. And I made sure that the COVID dollars were readily appropriated so that every student had access to technology, every kid had a laptop, every household had a hotspot, and that our teachers were well paid and also protected at a time when we didn't know the devastation that COVID-19 would have caused. Right now, I'm running for Congress because we need better leadership. And I just believe that there is way too much at stake to be rolling the dice on somebody who's untested or unproven. And, as the only Democrat who lives in the district and the only Democrat with any elected office experience, and the only person that's going to probably be visible and in community that you can call and reach out to, I just think we need somebody who's going to show up and do the work. And I'm excited to talk to you more about many of the issues in our community in Rockdale County specifically as well.
So Everett, you mentioned something just now. You said you're the only candidate that lives in the district. Where does your opponent live?
I believe she lives in downtown Atlanta. She definitely does not live in. She definitely lives in Atlanta. She definitely lives in somewhere in Midtown downtown.
Right, and that's a problem I've had with. A lot of people don't know this, but that is the law. You can live in Hawaii and run for congressman in Georgia. You're just supposed to, by the time you take office, live in the state, not in the district. And that's you do not have to live in the geographic boundaries of the state to even run for Congress.
Yeah, and
A
that's a
lot of people
problem
don't know
because
that.
you want somebody who's representing you who understands what it feels like to sit in traffic every day, who knows how
Well,
hard we have
you
to.
want somebody to run that actually lives in your pocket of the world,
Yeah,
right? Not adjacent,
yeah,
but you want somebody that lives in your community representing you. That's what it is. It's local representation, right? And that's what we all want. We all want the person we vote for to be our neighbor.
yeah,
You know what I mean? We want them to shop at the same stores that we shop at. We want them to their kids to go to the same school systems that our kids go to, so that we're talking apples to apples when we talk about what our community needs.
yep,
Yeah, when you talked to me the other day and you talked about running, and we had the conversation. It's only going to be a 5 month gig or whatever. I mean, what do you plan on doing? And I found it very interesting what you told me about what you wanted to do for Dr. Clark, who is, it's an 80-20 district.
yep,
Dr. Clark's going to be our congressman in January.
yeah.
But I found what you told me and the approach you had. I don't think your opponent's going to have that approach. Would you share with the audience what you think, what your approach should be, being this 5 month congressperson?
Yeah. What we need is a readiness assessment of the district. And I want to be a transition, I want to be a bridge. And I also want to be a productive asset to figure out like where our district is. We have Gwinnett, Newton, and Rockdale have only been in the 13th for 2 years. And we were previously represented by Hank Johnson for about 20 years. And this provides us an opportunity to, in Jasmine Clark's most likely leadership in January, I want to be able to give her the assets, the information, the extra set of perspectives, the fresh ideas, and the critical analysis of where the district needs to go in the next appropriation cycle, right? In the next budget negotiation, in the next set of conversations that I'm having with legislators and elected officials in the district. But it cannot be business as usual. And it cannot be that, this is treated as an honorific or a sympathy or an empathy transition, because there is too much at stake right now. There are votes that need to be cast this fall where you need to know at a minimum where your congressperson stands before you elect them. But at a maximum, they should be doing everything in their power to end this war in Iran and to bring back federal dollars into the district, making sure that the $40 million of appropriations, which is light work, right? I've overseen $2.5 billion in a budget, making sure that $40 million comes home to us, and also figuring out ways that we can be more innovative next year. We have a huge veteran population that is struggling to get care at the VA hospital in Covington and in Decatur. We can do so much more for our senior citizens and our young people with public education funds that are on the chopping block. So I just think that there's a lot at stake, but I want to do the work of being a critical eye on all of the ways in which over the last 5+ years, we have not necessarily had present, accessible leadership. So the 5 months presents me an opportunity to add my lens to the work and then provide it all to Jasmine Clark so that she can lead in the best possible condition starting in January.
So we have a positive con here. Cheryl Garcia she said, "Hi, Everett, and I met you several years ago at the Rockdale Career Academy. and have been impressed with you ever since. I support your platform and your efforts, and that is Miss Cheryl Garcia here from Rockdale County. So, yeah, I mean, I found it, that an interesting concept that you actually have the I want to pass the torch or the baton technique that you want
Yeah.
to do. You want to go in, prepare the way ahead of time for Dr. Clark, and I think that is I think it's an honorable position to have, right? So Everett, I've seen you at several events because you guys, you ran for the regular seat. Uh,
And I'll add, I wouldn't have even run if Jasmine told me that she was going to run. We had a conversation and she was the second person I called. So a lot of this is like, listen, it doesn't have to be me, but I want us to be in the best position to do the best job. And so every approach I take is just let's do good work. And
yeah.
this is no different.
Well, I have never personally seen Miss Scott. I have not heard Miss Scott. Just like her father, she got a lot of signs,
Hmm.
right? Just so and and people ask why they didn't take his signs down after he passed away. You know
Yeah.
what? I think it was a strategy, right? A
Yeah.
brilliant strategy. Left the signs up, kept the name out there, and then as soon as the special came up,
Mm,
all his signs were replaced with her signs.
mm.
But the name still is out there. And you mentioned something earlier, also very difficult to run against a name that's been out there for 52 years.
Yeah. Well,
So
and that's the race right now, right? It's the more that we communicate, the more that we inform people, like we have a real choice here. We don't have to continue with business as usual. We don't have to just pick something that was. We can actually like move away from this nepotistic, honorific, passed down tendency that we have and pick the best and most qualified person for the job. And it is the case that this is a race basically on like name ID versus qualification. And I'm just doing everything I can to let people know that I want to work. I live in the community. I'm ready to do the job. I'm excited about the actual work, right? I don't really love campaigning. I love talking to people, but I don't really love the idea of like raising money to spend it to put up signs. I want to go to community events and talk about the issues and figure out solutions to people's problems. But we live in a political system that's not necessarily that free and fair. So I'm privileged enough to be able to do what I can to combat that. And I'm just going to keep working hard to, make sure we get the right representation that we can have.
gotcha. Well, we do have someone who's asked a question, and it just Everett and our people ask everything. So
Hmm.
I'm going to put it up here. So this is Alex McDonald. He also is a podcaster here in the Rockdale County area, and he is asking about DSA platform, boys and girls sports, eliminating the Senate, amnesty for illegal immigrants, except. So I guess he wants to know about the Democrat socialist agenda. That's basically, you know, he wants to know if you support the Democrat socialist agenda or if you're a liberal Democrat. I think that's more the question that he's asking.
So I don't really do labels, but I'll try to figure out where I can answer some of it. I support Medicare for all. That is something that I believe Democratic Socialists do support, and so do liberal progressive Democrats.
Well, that's something liberal progressive Democrats have always supported. So
Yeah, I just
that is a liberal progressive Democrat stance. So yes.
in the richest country in the history of the world, I don't believe that we should be sending billions of dollars a day for Israel to bomb countries in the Middle East when they have universal health care and child care and we don't. And so I think that we should cut off offensive and defensive military aid to Israel and invest in our healthcare infrastructure. That's pipeline work to make sure we have more doctors that stay in the profession and more nursing professionals so that we don't have to travel to Atlanta in order to get good care. We can get good care in the suburbs. But I also, on top of supporting Medicare for all, support like cracking down on data centers. I support unions. I support workers' rights. I support the right to housing as a right. I don't believe that corporations should come into our community and buy up all of the available housing and turn them into rental properties. They tend to buy them cash for more than they appraise for, which is why your property taxes are going up, but why also your electricity bills and your water bills are going up, but you don't have the means to be able to do anything with it because the equity is not actualized in your home. What else do democratic socialists tend to support that I would also support? Um, I don't know. I need more specific questions, but in general, I'm not really a labels guy. You got to ask. You got to get into the weeds.
Well, I mean, he did ask us. Go ahead. He did ask a couple different things, as he says, boys and girls sports. So that would be uh, transgender. Do you believe transgender athletes should? Uh, 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 do you believe men who identify as women should play girl sports?
I believe deeply in trans dignity and the baseline through which I see justice, inclusion, and honoring someone's self is in making sure that they have rights to live their life as freely and fairly as they so choose. I think there's like a lot of nuance there where we can get into the nitty gritty of like, testosterone levels and all of that. And like anything that makes sense makes sense. But in general, I take an approach that is very universalist, where we need to not be seeking to ostracize anyone. And we need to be vigilant and critical of forces that try to pit one marginalized group against another under the guise of fairness, when it really takes away from the fact that billionaires are running this country, ruining our economy, mortgaging our future, and not allowing us to be in solidarity with one another to combat that with an expanded middle class and free and fair elections that allow us to pick candidates of choice. That's the real work. Everything else right now is completely a distraction. And I want to say what I believe, and I also want to know pragmatically what we should be fighting for. And there are not enough Democrats that can articulate that as cleanly and cogently as we need in this moment.
Gotcha. So when you started the run, I guess you've been running a while now. So and then this runoff happened, right? So it extended it even more. What have you experienced in the 13th district that surprised you? What's the what's the biggest need in the 13th as you've traveled the 13th and campaigned the 13th? What's the biggest need in the 13th that surprised you, especially when you look at the 13th and there's some wealthy counties
Yeah,
that are in the 13th. I mean,
yeah,
but it still surprised you that it was there.
yeah. Um, Transit, which is something that I had been experiencing and knew before, but like we need more investment in transportation and transportation infrastructure. If we're going to be a booming economy of the future, if we're going to be the best place to do business, we cannot keep expanding highways and just sit in traffic all day. But the most surprising thing that I did not have on my radar before running, and I'm excited to lead on, is veteran affairs. The 13th has so many veterans, and there is not the same access to veteran resources as there are in the city of Atlanta. And I think, as veterans move further and further out from the urban core into the suburbs of Newton County and Rockdale County and Gwinnett County and Henry County and Clayton counties, like we need to be aware of what offsite satellite resources and what expanded capacity the VA needs in order to serve the population that has so dutifully sacrificed their lives to defend the protections and rights of all of us in this country. And I just, that's one element that I want to investigate, especially the VA hospitals. And then, I think that the biggest malfeasance of the lack of representation that we do not have right now is that we don't have an investigatory lens as a member of Congress doing the oversight privileges afforded to a member of Congress on all of the federal agencies and resources that exist in the 13th. And that's like our CDC workers in the 13th who have been let go, making sure that they are given their due process in their employment proceedings. That's the ICE detention centers, investigating that, understanding what's going on there. Every data center that's popping up in our community, understanding the transparency and the need to like make sure that we're not paying for their electricity and water as citizens nearby without the ability to advocate for our own selves. There's a lot at stake that I think that the people of the Georgia's 13th, myself included, as the only candidate who actually lives in the district, need a representative who's going to do work, take ideas, and then bring solutions. And that's we can do that in 5 months. We can do that tomorrow.
Have you had conversations with Dr. Clark?
Yes, but not as often as I would have liked.
Gotcha. And then I'm assuming if you're successful, then there's where the bridge building begins with
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
with in-depth conversation with Dr.
Yeah.
Clark about what
We also got elected together in 2018.
Gotcha.
She is my state representative. I was her school board member, and I've known her for basically a decade now.
Gotcha. So it would not be hard to transition into that working relationship, well, because it actually already exists.
Yeah, not on my end.
Yeah, gotcha. That sounds good. So I think that what we need to do in the 13th is we need to learn the 13th, right? So especially I think we had a whole lot of people running for Congress, and I heard a lot of the when we did some interviews and we did some things, and I wasn't impressed a whole lot with a lot of the candidates running for the 13th, because I don't really think they knew the 13th. And I'll be honest with you, Everett, I don't know how many of them actually lived in the 13th either, of that whole gang that ran several months ago. How many of that May primary group actually lived in the 13th?
Everybody that ended up qualifying did live in the 13th, except for our late congressman.
Gotcha.
And all of them have either endorsed me now. Yeah, everyone is fully. All of the other challengers are on board now.
Gotcha. Now, have you, in this special election, have you been to any events where you and Miss Scott have been at the same events?
Yes, rarely though. I take every opportunity and invitation. And there was one forum that she and I and one Republican were at. Yeah.
So one event.
Yes. Yeah. One event.
And I just want to ask, how many events do you think you've been to in the last 7 months?
Oh, at least 50. I mean, maybe. Yeah, I don't miss a forum or anything. Yeah,
right.
But I did have the privilege of having been running before. So everybody who's been paying a lot of attention to this race knows that I can do this job. The problem is there aren't a lot of people who are paying a lot of attention. So we gotta increase the name ID. We gotta inform people that we have to win this election. We have to earn this election. And
I hate to say this, Everett, and this is true. There are some people that don't even know they're voting for her. They still think they're voting for her dad.
Yeah.
They just see the last name, and you made the comment. It's a name that's been around for 50 some years as a state senator, as a congressman, you know what I mean? And all that. And people just, that name recognition and it just being out there, it's a dangerous thing. So we mentioned something. I mentioned this earlier in the show, and we were going to talk about it, right? And we were going to talk about the aging Congress and the fact that we may have too many people that are serving that are really not connected, right? They're not with us. They're not with us mentally, right? Physically, they're there, but we do not know if they are there mentally. And that's and that transcends political parties, right? It doesn't matter if it's Democrat, Republican, or whatever, right? Yeah. That's an issue that we have across the board in Congress today, with too many aging people serving that are absent, not there, and
That's
some
right.
of them that there was a few years ago there was a congressperson who had been in a nursing home for 6 months. They had been in a personal care home for 6 months,
I'll take it even further.
and nobody knew, right? And they
Yeah.
were riding it out to retire, right? They weren't going to run again,
Yep.
but they had been in a personal care home for 6 months.
We have currently in the United States Congress built in incentives for people to stay forever and to, very transparently pass away in office. And I believe that we should build incentives for them to retire early with dignity so we can proactively build a bench of competent and qualified next generation leaders who can address the next generation challenges before us. A part of the reason why Congress is so slow and, like, frankly, reticent to adapt and regulate is because we have people who don't understand the new industries as they emerge. And then it's too little too late, right? We didn't regulate the dot-com boom as early and proactively as we could have because people didn't know what the internet was. Right now, that the version of that is artificial intelligence. We see the disruption that it's causing. And at the same time, crypto, big tech, and data centers are buying elections across the country. And they are picking people who will refuse to stand up to regulate them. And what that's going to mean is in 5, 10 years, we're going to have people in a potentially similarly, out of touch Congress who don't understand the industry and can't put pen to paper and pass legislation that gets this in check and then gives hardworking Americans the dividends and stimulus checks and basic income that they need in order to supplement the local economy so that we're not all starving and fighting each other for scraps. It cannot be the case that billionaires and corporations continue to make all the profit in this country. And we have only done well as an American fabric when the middle class has been expanded. So pick leaders who can communicate that. Pick leaders who see the through line between this war in Iran and the billions of dollars a day that we're spending there and will have to pay for later, to the gas prices being high because the strait is closed because the president wants to ping pong with a country that has nuclear war power and uranium in its ranks. And that, for me, is not something that I can sit idly by as a 34-year-old and just allow to happen when our members of Congress don't even seem to be awake enough. And that's the biggest challenge. I will just say one other piece. We can create an incentive structure where people do retire early. It will require money, but it can be investments that they get to then say, yes, after 12 years or 16 years, I'm going to take this honorary title, which gives me, a library in the community and a ribbon cutting and, whatever fancy thing people with big egos need. Let's do that thing so that they move out of the way earlier and then actually allow for the next generation to lead and still have the mentorship and the involvement and relevance to be able to do a good job and continue to improve our communities.
So, Miss Turner, she's got a comment. She said, "I would be glad to share some issues here in Rockdale with him through Voices for Rockdale." Thank you, Miss Turner. And then Alex again has a couple of things he wants to know. He says, he admit so he's anti data center and why. And just to let you know,
I can answer that.
at one time I was probably anti data center. I'm not any longer. Just so you know, because I actually did an extensive research. Actually, did 5 shows on data centers with Alex, and we had mechanical engineers, acoustic engineers, electrician. We actually had the chairman of the Public Service Commissioner on. We dug deep into what we called mis and issue and misinformation,
Yeah.
and we covered it from both sides.
Yeah.
And
My issue is not with technology. It's not with data centers in general. It is with data center practice, and it's with data center transparency. It is with data center equity, right? Why are data centers disproportionately in Black communities? Why are they in disproportionately low income communities? Why are they disproportionately in places where the political power has been diluted? And how can we ensure that there are environmental protections and transparency in the commercial business dealings so that we know who is paying for what, right? As taxpayers, we have as a member of Congress, I have an obligation to inform my tax-paying constituents of where their money is going. And it's not, if people want a data center, great. We should all be able to be a part of that and celebrate it and then approve it and move forward. But if there are backdoor deals that are being masked as Project Bigfoot, and then you don't know what it really is until the ground has already broken, that's not fair to the people who now have their electricity bills go up.
Well, and I asked about that with the Public Service Commission and Georgia Power, and we were given assurances that that's not going to happen. That actually, that if a data center wants to come to Georgia, they have to upfront pay for the infrastructure development. Like DC Blocks and moved to Rockdale County had to write a $52 million check for the infrastructure up front. There's another proposed data center that wants to come to Rockdale, and if they're approved, they have to cut a $102 million check to Georgia Power for the infrastructure. And then
as they should.
And the rates
and
have been
more, because
the rates have been frozen, and that we have been assured that high use users is what they're referred to as, right?
Yeah.
If they use over X number of kilowatts or whatever, or gigawatts, that their usage will not be passed on to regular electric users. So, and then we dealt with the water issue and looked at all that, and we actually found that a splash pad that a municipality will run will actually use more water annually than a data center if they use the closed loop system. So we found a lot of the things that people were saying were just actually not true. And then we actually looked at some examples of how, and not everywhere can this happen, but some places, a lot of places in Georgia, if you have a couple of data center complexes in your county, it's enough to eliminate property taxes. And I think from what I have heard,
say it again,
that if you have a couple of data center complexes, it's enough to eliminate property taxes
based on how much revenue they're generating.
Yes, on how much revenue. I'll tell you. So Effingham County is getting ready to build a $20 billion data center for OpenAI. And they have already, part of their thing they're going to do is eliminate all property taxes will be eliminated through that. The city of Covington actually has it on the ballot this November. They had legislation introduced. City residents in Covington are not going to pay property taxes after that initiative passes in November, because they worked out through their agreement with Google, who is there, that their property taxes are going to get paid. And I think if these things can come in and they can offer those type benefits, and you and I don't pay property taxes, as long as they're responsible, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
As long as I'm not paying electricity, as long as I'm not wasting valuable resources, but it's got to be upfront and open, and the UDOs have to be written in a manner that it's respectful to the community.
Yeah, it's not rocket science. It just needs to make sense for hardworking people that have done everything right and are struggling. And if it does, then I'll support it.
Yeah, I mean, I think but I do think that, just like you said, each community deserves the opportunity to decide what they if this can pay your taxes, do you want it in your community?
Right.
And and I think as long as it's done right, people will want it in the community.
Yeah.
As long as it's done right. But I think that's the key. Nobody wants taken advantage of. Somebody asked.
The speculative trade-off that I'm just thinking about and don't know the answer to when you mention that is, like, even if it does pay the property taxes of the people that are nearby, right? Like, who is paying for it? And is it truly fair? And those are
it would, like I said, and what I understand is at least 70 Georgia counties, because the population, right? That at least 70 Georgia counties, if a data complex or at least one or two data complexes were there, it would be enough to eliminate all property taxes.
Which and
all homestead property taxes. Let's clarify that, right? So, and if you would do that, then there would not be the need to do the floss and the loss, then we could actually eliminate some of these pennies that we pay in sales tax,
Yeah.
Everton, if we're able to do that through that. So not only would you save money through not having property taxes being paid, at the end of the year in November, but then also we might be able to reduce a couple of penny sales tax from these things that we have that go toward
Yeah.
assisting in property taxes.
I get the ideal, but I need to look at the books because where is that money coming from? And is that also then a consequence?
It's coming from you tax the value of the land, and then you tax the value of the investment of the property that's inside the data centers. And from my research on these things, these data centers have to reinvest in that equipment every 5 years. So that was one of the questions I asked. Being in business, I was concerned about depreciation, right? So what I found was that the equipment never gets to depreciate because they have to replace it before it depreciates, so that you're going to keep that value on it. And another thing too,
But
they're required to sign a 15-year contract with Georgia Power.
yeah,
So we know they're not going anywhere for 15 to 20 years, right? And this is my thing. If I can solve a problem for 15 to 20 years, that's solving it for a generation. That's a long-term problem solution. So that gives me 15 years to work on another solution if I need another solution.
I generally take the approach of broad stroke skepticism of corporations that come in with fancy, flashy things that are going to be incentives for community members. But I enjoy being proven wrong. But I will always ask the critical question to make sure that the people are being well served. And the questions that I would have are, okay, so you're saying that we're going to get property taxes eliminated, but like, what is going to be the consequence of the existence and proliferation of this industry? Does it mean that I no longer have access to a white collar job in my backyard because AI is expediting the rate in which labor is now no longer necessary in the workforce? And if that is the circular process, then maybe sure, I don't have property tax that I have to pay, but do I have a job that I can actually pay my bills with? And so that there's still some circuitous logic that's missing, and that we need a lot more people at the table asking tough questions about the next steps for our future economy. And I just do not believe that the current leaders that we have are going to be the ones to ask those tough questions.
Well, and that's why I think citizens are the people that ask those questions, and that's
Yeah.
what, and that's why you've had people like me asking these questions, and other people that are in this chat. They've been very active in asking these questions and wanting to know, what. And actually, some of the ideas about eliminating the taxes and stuff, those
Yep.
were our ideas, and us putting that out there. Well, if you're going to come here, this is what we want.
Yep. Yeah.
So
That's
and
good.
that's how you get to this stage. It's by people in the community being proactive, but it's also it's elected officials learning how to listen instead of dictating to us all the time. And that's one of the problems I think we've had here in Rockdale County in the last 20 some years from congressmen. We haven't even had somebody to listen to us.
Yeah.
And that's something you and I talked about, right? So before we had absentee Hank, David Scott, we had absentee Hank Johnson, right? So if you're elected, even for that 5 months, are you pledging not to be an absentee?
You'll see me.
Okay.
You'll definitely see me. I will be the most visible member of Congress we've ever had, especially in the Gwinnett, Newton, and Rockdale portions. Yeah. I mean, that bar is not hard to clear. I feel like I'm already more accessible.
That bar is not hard to clear at all. I mean, just if you show up one time, you've beat. I mean,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've had, these gentlemen run for reelection here cycle after cycle and not show up. And they've had staffers show up to actually campaign on their behalf. Everett, and I've seen you out there campaigning, right? You've
I live
been
here.
I know, but you've been the person actually campaigning for yourself, right?
Yeah.
So that speaks volumes, right? The fact that you've been on the campaign trail.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I want to actually I want the job. I don't want the title. I actually just want to do the work.
So like I said, and I think that's what I think that's what the citizens of this district want. I think they're hungry for someone to actually come to this district, represent this district, and us and be able to actually speak to that person and see a face.
Yeah.
And it's something I think they've been denied for 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, we're in this runoff because largely people in Gwinnett know my leadership well. And everywhere else, I'm a largely unknown entity. And I recognize that. I have to earn support in Rockdale and in Newton. And that is not lost on me. It's also a charge. It's like, it's honestly like a fun challenge for me to deliver. And I do know that just like in my race for school board, when I was an unknown and then became a well known, um, you get you get the opportunity to show people what good leadership can look and feel like, and then they realize what they've been missing and what how much better things could have been. But we don't have a present counterfactual to compare it to. So right now, I'm just saying a bunch of words.
Well,
But if you
somebody asked me how did he get in the runoff, and I said I looked at those numbers and I said I don't think I've ever seen such a performance in one county that impacted a congressional race in my life. But you mentioned it just now, right? So it's that's reality. I mean, I looked at those numbers from that election, and
yeah,
just the support and the numbers that you got from Gwinnett County were just off the chart for a congressional race when you look at the rest of the district, Everett. And so, yeah, hands off to you, because the work that you did on the school board in Gwinnett County definitely came back to pay dividends, because you could see that in the vote totals.
yeah. I want to do it everywhere. I'll do it well in Rockdale. I'll do it well in across the entire district. People just don't know me yet, and so we just got to keep knocking on doors and introducing myself and earning support. And fortunately, I got energy and I'm excited about it, and I'm not tired. And we need people who are gonna, you know, wake up every day and get to work and keep going at it.
Yeah, and just to let you know, I mean, so I want to give you a shout out from somebody I know who is a big fan of yours right now. So this is Miss Sandra Jackson Lett.
Uh,
Yes, he will. We will see him. So and you know Miss Jackson Lett,
We
right?
were chairs. We were county board chairs together during the pandemic.
So Miss Jackson. So Miss Jackson Lett. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. She wanted to give you the shout out. So
People who have
I
worked with me, they know, but it is, it's been a little while, and I need to keep earning support.
gotcha. So yeah, so I think you just got to keep doing what you're doing. You got to keep plugging along, doing it. I don't have to tell you, you've been doing it, right? And then, um, just duplicate that successful model that you did in Gwinnett County, in which, like I said, it was very impressive, Everton. Just when one looked at those numbers and everything, and you're right, you're in this race because of the performance that happened in Gwinnett County.
Yeah, but I'll just double down on. I've been in Rockdale County 5 times in the last week. We had a fantastic event in Conyers last Saturday. I was at church this morning at Victorious Life. We canvassed in Conyers right after. I made phone calls throughout the entire district right before this interview. Like the work that needs to be done requires diligence, and you deserve a dutiful member of Congress who's gonna wake up every day and do everything in their capacity to serve us. And I'm going to do that regardless of if I win or lose, to be honest. But I also just think that with the power of the office, I would be able to do much more.
So Charlotte had. I'll put this up here, and I'll ask a question off of this. You have all of Rockdale and parts of other counties. Yes, come see us. So let me ask you: is Rockdale the only county that the whole county is in the district?
That's correct. Yeah.
And that's actually for people to know. Other than in South Georgia, that's a rarity
Yeah.
up in this area, because a lot of the counties are sometimes have three districts in
Yeah.
them or
It's
whatever.
frankly, it makes it so much easier to canvas when you have a contiguous boundary fully enclosed within a congressional district, because all you have to do is like look at a license plate, or it's just much easier to check. But I do think that voting rights will most likely be on the ballot, and also before the state house and senate this fall. And we need a member of Congress who's going to fight to retain the contiguous nature of the district so that it is compact, so that it does retain communities of interest, so it does comply with the original intention of the Voting Rights Act, and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And these are things that, like, we should be fighting for, because we deserve representation. No matter your party affiliation or even really what your zip code is, like, you want to be sure that you're not squiggle drawn all the way into another community that is so far away that you don't share much with them. And that's like a large problem in front of this gerrymandering theme that we see across the country. So I think we need champions who are going to go toe to toe and fight for these issues.
I got you. So yeah, excuse me. So yeah, I mean, I think we have a lot of challenges in this district, and think we have a lot of challenges nationwide that we need to deal with, and we need to just right up front have conversations about. And if we don't have conversations about them, you can't solve it.
That's right.
And sometimes it's difficult to have conversations about difficult issues because people want to take things personal.
Yeah.
And the best, for me, the best way is to not take any of these issues personal.
Yeah.
Take the issue as the issue and deal with the issue head on.
That's right. I mean, I disagree with my mom and my uncle and on many, many a issue, but it's never personal. I can still love you and, disagree with you. And that's a part of what I think we need to separate with this political state that we're in. And also just, to your point, listen more.
I think that's right. I think that's what we need to do. Well, Everett, I tell you what, we're at 8:50. I mean, we've been on here for 50 minutes. I told you it would go by before you knew it. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you an opportunity now to tell us a little more. Do a closeout, what we really need to know, and give the people some times and places to go vote.
Yeah, absolutely. So this election is on Tuesday, August 25th, and early vote starts tomorrow. And you can vote in Rockdale. You can vote at your normal one spot, the Board of Elections office. And it is open Monday through Friday, the 17th through the 21st, as well as on election day, you can go to your normal voting precinct. The winner of this election is to fill the remainder of the unexpired term and will be seated immediately. And so this is why we don't have time to risk or wait or question who our leader will be. We should pick somebody who is proven, ready on day one, has the capacity and the innovation to lead us forward, and also right sizes what can be done in 5 months and what should be handed over to Dr. Jasmine Clark when she will take this office come January. I do believe that this bridge presents an opportunity for us to better understand the backlog of constituent services, to deliver more in community, to ensure that the $40 million of requested funds gets appropriated, but also to do even more, right? To use the oversight capacity of the office to investigate and to do a readiness assessment and power mapping of where our district is. I speak to people every day in this community who are saying the bills have gotten higher and my salary has not increased, and I cannot afford to live anymore. And these are things that your member of Congress should be taking perspective to the halls of DC and challenging this president and his administration and a Republican Congress to do more, even while in the minority. And as the only elected official, as the only person who lives in the district, and the only person who frankly got things done as a Democrat in a Republican majority on the Gwinnett County School Board, I know how to hit the ground running. And I just believe that we'll be best served if you put me there for 5 months and I show you everything that I can do and how much better things could have been a long time ago.
Well, you heard it here, guys. You heard Everton come and give his spiel of what he thinks he can do, and I think it's a very interesting approach that he wants to take over this next 5 months, knowing that he's got that short window, but willing to not just be a place setter and actually try to make that 5 months impactful and take action.
And
So,
I want to say one more thing, because I know that there are 2 days that are different in terms of the time.
Charlotte Gilroy just put that out there. The 20th and 21st are early voting, open until 7 p.m.
Thank you. Yeah. So then it's 8 to 7 the Thursday and the Friday, but it's 8 to 5 Monday through Wednesday. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
It's the only county that has staggered times.
Yes. It's 7 p.m. those last 2 days. Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah. So please make your plan, communicate to your friends and family. And if you need to reach me directly, my email address is contact@evertonblair.com.
You guys heard it, and then you've got the voting schedule. So if you live in the district, get out and vote. Get out and vote. And this election, anybody can vote because it's a special and it's a runoff. So it didn't matter if you didn't vote in the original, you can vote in this. And there was no requirement to pull any kind of ticket. So it doesn't, just as long as you're a registered voter, you can go vote in this race. So just so everybody's aware how one of these, they refer to them as jungle primaries originally they work. So it is a true free for all. Did you find that free for all experience a little bit challenging versus the regular primary?
I mean, I don't know. The dynamics are so different. I've been on now 3 ballots.
Yeah.
in like 4 months, but I actually can't say that it was harder to be with Republicans. I actually enjoyed this last race because it gave me an opportunity to, without a bunch of outside funding and without a bunch of noise, to be able to just articulate what we could be doing differently with the greatest possible contrast. And so that was actually enjoyable.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, guys, I just want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. And it was great to have Everton on here. And as always, I was glad to be able to bring this show to you guys, because without shows like this, a lot of times, a lot of people don't get to hear candidates running for a local office or, unfortunately, even Congress. So we've had several congressional candidates on the show and different candidates running for many things. We've had people running for about every office at some point come on this show, Everett. And so we believe in putting it out there, right? And
I support it. Thank you for your coverage.
No problem. We enjoyed it. And another unique thing about this show is we actually require the candidates to reach out to the show. We don't reach out to candidates, and you did that, right? So we don't reach out to candidates. Candidates reach out to us. So all the candidates that have appeared on the show and everybody who watches the show knows that, right?
Yep,
and I think that's right. One of the things they respect about the folks that come on the show. They know that they've reached out to the podcast and they wanted to come on. So thank you for reaching out. Thank you for coming on. And I know that the audience is very grateful to be able to hear from you and what your plans are as their congressman. So guys, again, thank you. We will see you next week at 8 p.m. on Sunday. This will be. I don't think we have a guest scheduled for next week, but who knows? Somebody may call, right? And if they do, we'll see what happens. But you will definitely have me next week, everybody, and we'll talk about local happenings in Rockdale County and keep you informed about everything Rockdale. So Everett, you can hold on as we sign off, and you and I can talk for a minute. Okay. Again, guys, thank you. See y'all.